Right now, Russia, it's weaponizing Melania's past. I don't know if you know this, but on Russian TV, they frequently show Melania nude in order to mock Donald Trump. So they show all these photos of Melania. By the way, Melania's previously made posts about how proud she is of her nudes,
And in Europe, we are proud of bodies, no matter what size you are. And it was done as an art, as a celebration of female body.
Russian state television spent a primetime segment splashing Melania Trump's old GQ photos across the screen to humiliate an American president they claim to admire. And the strangest part is that it told the truth about the relationship better than any press conference ever has. Power in Moscow understands the value of a spectacle, and so does Donald Trump. Tonight, we are laying out the triangle that keeps boomeranging back into the headlines. Russian TV weaponizing Melania's past to keep Trump off balance.
With Putin's state television shamefully broadcasting nude pictures of America's First Lady, who is so beloved, Melania Trump. In conclusion, God bless our troops as the global war on terrorism continues.
Did you know that after Donald Trump and Melania met, she got what was called an Einstein visa? She was treated like a genius, an exceptional achievement visa that gave her a fast track to become a United States citizen. She then used her citizenship to bring in her family members, a policy that Donald Trump is blocking, and that Donald Trump would send people like that, I guess if their skin color was brown or black.
Trump's long, publicly documented dance with Vladimir Putin, from flattery to deference to the Helsinki low point. The Epstein orbit that overlapped with Trump, and yes, the famous Mar-a-Lago photographs that still travel the internet like they were taken yesterday. We are going to walk it clean on the record, step by step, because the story only sounds complicated until you play it in order. And while we do it, drop your first reaction in the comments. Please subscribe if you want more detailed documentaries like this.
Attorney General, no, I know it's a hoax. It's started by Democrats. It's been run by the Democrats for 4 years. You had Christopher Wray and these characters and Comey before him. And it's a bad group. It started, actually, look at the Steele dossier that turned out to be a total hoax. The 51 agents, the intelligence, so-called intelligence agents, it was a hoax. It's all been a big hoax. It's perpetrated by the Democrats, and some stupid Republicans and foolish Republicans fall into the net, and so they try and do the Democrats' work. The Democrats are good for nothing other than these hoaxes. They're bad for policy. They're bad for picking candidates that can get elected. Like in New York, we have a communist running.
Do you think Russian TV blasted those images because they hate Trump, or because they know exactly how to keep him craving their attention? Tell me now, because the edit we are cutting tonight is going to need your read on motive, and if you want these deep dives on your feed the second they go live, hit subscribe so you do not miss a beat. Start with the broadcast, because it sets the tone. In the days after Trump's 2024 victory, Russia's most watched debate show ran a segment that turned Melania's modeling past into a state media sledgehammer.
Melania Trump.
Nude photos of Melania Trump have been aired on Russia's most watched state TV channel during a program supposedly dedicated to celebrating Trump's election victory. This comes after Trump allegedly urged Putin not to escalate the Ukraine war in a phone call last week. But the Kremlin denies that this phone call ever took place.
The photos were from the year 2000, taken for a glossy men's magazine, hardly a secret in the United States. We had seen them before. What changed was the intent. Russian TV did not show them to celebrate a former model's career. The on-air talent laughed, leered, and framed the images as proof that America's first family was a tabloid circus. It was a flex meant for one viewer in particular, the man who cannot resist a television, the man who believes dominance is the angle of a camera and the volume of applause.
Let's dig through this timeline, shall we? So what was Donald Trump doing in 1997, the year before he meets Melania? Well, in 1997, he's out there partying with Epstein and Ghislaine. This is from the London Sunday Mirror. This is 1997. How sweet. Trump's Brit of all right. Just weeks after ditching his second wife, America's best-known billionaire Donald Trump has fallen under the spell of a 20-year-old English girl. This was before Melania, okay? This is 1997. Trump, 50, who has failed in his bid to secure the services of Princess Diana's butler, Paul Burrell, was in search of another British trophy when he met London model Anuska DeGiorgio at a party in Manhattan. Several American millionaires already had their eyes on Anuska, but she was there with Robert Maxwell's daughter, Ghislaine, who has introduced several of her attractive friends to the property developer, and none of his would-be rivals owned a vast mansion in Florida like Donald does. Mar-a-Lago, where I have dined with him, the author writes, is enough to make any young girl go weak at the knees.
When a foreign government's mouthpieces broadcast your wife's nudes to the world after your political win, they are not paying homage to your power. They are reminding you who can put you on your heels any night they want. Think about that dynamic as we rewind, because it lives at the core of Trump and Putin. The courtship began in the open. Summer 2013. Trump is promoting Miss Universe in Moscow and tweeting like a teenager before prom. Do you think Putin will be going? He asks the internet. If so, will he become my new best friend?
Look, this is a very familiar Republican trope. The wives come out and say they believe in abortion rights when their husbands, who have the power to actually take away women's rights, and we've seen that with the extraordinary boasting by Donald Trump of his victory with the Supreme Court dismantling Roe versus Wade. This is when they have the men have the power to actually take away the rights, and then the women simper around saying, oh goodness, well, I didn't believe it. I don't think we should take this remotely seriously, but I am myopically interested in anything Melania has to say, because I do think that she, as your co-host actually on your podcast, Catty, Anthony Scaramucci said very clearly, she absolutely hates him.
The tone is playful, but the target is serious. He wants the photo, he wants the handshake, he wants the proximity. Reports later describe letters and outreach, congratulations sent back, and the sort of public flattery that makes headlines in both countries. For the record, that is not a crime. It is a posture. It tells you what matters to him. He is hunting the aura of strongman approval, and he is willing to say it out loud. Fast forward 3 years. The 2016 campaign turns Putin into a recurring character. One day, Trump praises him as a strong leader who gets things done. Another day, he insists he has no relationship at all.
After their meeting, Trump flew Madame Maxwell, they called her a madam, Madame Maxwell, and the model south to the Sunshine State, where all three enjoyed a happy weekend together. When they returned to New York, Anuska was installed in one of Donald's many apartments there. Miss DeGiorgia likes older men. She went out once or twice with this other person. Doubtless, it is the start of a long, and by Trump's standards, it already is, friendship. So that's what was happening there. So Donald Trump's out there doing that. And then Donald Trump's out there going to these parties at the Kit Kat Club to meet. This is separate than what I just said. This is separate. He's just going out there to meet, these young models. So Donald Trump goes to the Kit Kat Club, and let's just see the story as reported by the New York Times about how Donald and Melania met at the Kit Kat Club.
The contradictions pile up on tape. The praise is never quite matched by reciprocity, but in TV terms, it does not matter. The visual is the point. He wants you to see the possibility that the gangster he admires approves of him too. Then comes Helsinki in 2018, the clearest single frame in this entire story. The President of the United States stands next to the President of Russia and tells the world he does not see why it would be Russia who interfered in an American election, despite the findings of his own intelligence community.
They were linked by someone named Paolo Zampoli, who's become an ambassador under Donald Trump, a high-ranking government official. And here's how New York Times describes what went down. When Donald met Melania, Paolo was there. And the article goes on to say how Paolo secured Miss Trump's visa to the United States and introduced her to her future husband at a 1998 party he hosted at the Kit Kat Club. Mr. Zampoli's parties have featured an alligator, tiger cubs, and models at nightclubs blowing kisses at fashion television cameras.
It was not a whisper. It was not a leak. It was a live mic. If you want to understand why Russian TV producers feel comfortable clowning an American first lady to make a point, go watch that tape. A head of state who treats autocrat praise like a performance review does not get respect. He gets managed. He gets gamed. He gets teased on air, then rewarded with a wink. Over the years, the posture barely shifts. At rallies, he talks about getting along with Putin as if it were an achievement in itself.
So Donald Trump meets Melania at the Kit Kat Club, and then they develop a relationship with each other. And then let's talk about what happened. How Melania arrived in the United States from Slovenia in 1996 for modeling work, and then she obtained her green card around 2001 based on her extraordinary ability as a model, secured by Paolo Zampoli, who led the modeling agency. Now, Zampoli later transitions from a modeling agency guy into real estate deals, and then he used the models in order to build his real estate fortune. Here was Paolo Zampoli in a BBC interview. This was like about 20 years ago or more. Here's how he created a real estate company using the models as the real estate agents. Here, play this clip.
The new issue of living with Mr. Trump on the cover.
Merging modelling and high-end property is the idea of Italian entrepreneur Paolo Zampoli, a friend of the New York tycoon Donald Trump. Several of his top models have a foot in both camps.
But they're really not that different, actually, because for both professions, you need to have incredible networking skills. So that's the basis for modeling and as well as for real estate. So if you combine the two industries, you're left with the same Rolodex. You just go through your Rolodex and sell houses that way.
It's more attractive to me because it's you get to meet a lot of people, and it's more consistent than the acting business would be.
Less precarious.
Yes.
In interviews, he reframes deference as smart diplomacy. More recently, he even floated the idea of consulting Putin before greenlighting support that Ukraine desperately needs, selling the idea as leverage. That is not strategy. That is dependence dressed up as wisdom, and Moscow knows exactly how to feed it. Now fold Melania back into the picture because she sits at the intersection of all three threads. She is not responsible for her husband's fandom or for state TV's cynicism. She is not responsible for his policy or his tweets.
Fact of the matter is that, I don't think that these threats of a lawsuit are add up to anything other than a design distraction, because it's not about who introduced whom to who. I don't know how that's in any way rises to the level of defamation to begin with, but the fact of the matter is that this is about hundreds, if not over 1,000 minors, children who were raped by Jeffrey Epstein. And I don't believe in guilt by association alone, but the connections have become, they're so glaringly obvious that I think they're trying to use other things to distract. And I also think they're bullies, and they think that $1 billion is going to scare me, which is, the fact of the matter is that if they'd like to go, I have this to say to them. If they want to sit down for a deposition and clarify the nature of the relationship between Jeffrey Epstein, if the president and the first lady want to do that, and all of the known associates around them at the time of whatever time that they met, I'm more than happy to provide them the platform to be able to do it.
She is not responsible for what men with cameras decide to put on screens in Moscow, but she is part of the machinery of image, and image is the currency here. Her modeling past is not a scandal, it is a career. The scandal is the way adversarial television repackaged it to signal dominance, then watched as the man they were needling failed to defend her with anything more than a pout and a grievance tour. If you have spent years bragging that you are nobody's puppet, and a foreign broadcaster can drag your family's private images back into primetime just to watch you squirm, the public sees the truth you cannot say.
Right, now you fast forward a little bit, and Melania and Donald, they'd hang out a lot with Ghislaine and Epstein. Also, you can see here that Melania and Donald, they would hang out with, that's Karen McDougal right there, who Donald Trump eventually cheated on Melania with right after Melania gave birth to Barron. You can see right there. But then Melania got her family citizenship. Melania Trump used a legal pathway that her husband and his top advisors has repeatedly disparaged as chain migration, the right of U.S. citizens to bring their parents to the United States. Federal law since 1965 has said U.S. citizens may apply to bring minor children and parents to join them in the United States without having to wait a long time for a visa. Citizens may sponsor siblings and adult children, but they typically wait longer longer for visas. Okay.
They have you on a string and they know you know it. Before we push into the Epstein chapter, a guardrail. We say what we can prove, and we separate proximity from participation. There is a famous photograph from February 2000 at Mar-a-Lago. Donald Trump and Melania appear with Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, smiling like it is just another Palm Beach evening. The image is real and widely licensed. It is not a deep fake. It does not prove criminal conduct by everyone in the frame. There is no credible reporting that Melania was involved in Epstein's crimes. Do not let the internet's worst habits drag you into a lie.
Your Deputy Attorney General sat down with Ghislaine Maxwell for 9 hours. I'm just wondering when the American people get to hear what she said during that interview.
Well, I don't know, because I haven't spoken about it, but he's a very talented guy, Todd Blanche, and a very straight shooter.
Yeah.
And I think he probably wanted to know, just to get a feeling of it, because we'd like to release everything, but we don't want people to get hurt that shouldn't be hurt.
Yeah.
And I would assume that was why he was there. I want to release everything. I just don't want people to get hurt. You can't have people associated. First of all, the files were run by some very bad people and very sick people like Comey and Lisa, the whole group, all those people in that office. They ran those files for 4 years. And if they were going to use the files, they would have used it before my election. Right. Because unless they're stupid, which to a certain extent they are stupid.
You're saying they would have released the information.
Well, they had the files.
They
control the files.
Yes.
I didn't control the files. They control the files for 4 years.
The photo does, however, place the Trumps and the Epstein circle in the same social orbit at the turn of the century, which matters because of what came before and after. You can chart the overlap in New York and Florida. You can find the 1992 party tape that shows Trump and Epstein together on a dance floor at Mar-a-Lago, pointing at women as they talk. You can find the 2002 magazine profile where Trump calls Epstein a terrific guy, a lot of fun to be with, adding that he likes beautiful women, many of them on the younger side.
Really beautiful is Paris Hilton. Paris Hilton. And I've known Paris Hilton from the time she's 12.
She's hot.
Her parents are friends of mine, and the first time I saw her, she walked into the room and said, "Who the hell is that?"
Did you want to bang her?
She is at 12 I wasn't interested. I've never been into that.
Right.
They've sort of always stuck around that 25 category.
But even at 12, you were kind of
No, but
wow,
I saw at 12 she was beautiful. But honestly, Paris gets knocked and this and that, but she's very beautiful.
Is she dumb?
Flawless. She's dumb like a fox.
Have you seen the video, the sex video?
I have seen it.
You did? What'd you do? You went on the internet?
It was just.
How did you see that? What did you do?
Melania showed it to me.
She did?
She showed it to me.
What did you think of that?
I think it's probably unfortunate, and perhaps it made... What is that noise?
That's the tape.
You can find flight logs reporting that Trump flew on Epstein's jet a handful of times in the 90s. You can track the social invitations, the parties, the wedding guest lists. And later, when Epstein's crimes finally surged into the mainstream, you can watch Trump claim he banned Epstein from Mar-a-Lago years earlier and had barely spoken to him in ages. The reason for the supposed falling out remains murky in public accounts. What is not murky is the timeline, shared circles, public praise, later distance when the headlines went radioactive.
So Melania gets the expedited path based on an Einstein visa after meeting Donald Trump at the Kit Kat Club. Then she brings in her family, and now Donald Trump's against all of those same policies. Now, Melania is no, innocent person in all of this either. Melania, after Donald Trump, was caught on video bragging about sexually assaulting women and grabbing women by their genitals. And he says, because if you're rich, they let you do it. She said that's locker room talk and that she was okay with it. Here, play this clip.
He described it as locker room talk. Mm-hmm. To you, you sort of alluded to that as well. Is that what it is to you, just locker room talk?
Yeah, it's kind of two teenage boys. Actually, they should behave better, right?
He was 59.
Correct. And sometimes I said, I have 2 boys at home. I have my young son and I have my husband. So, but I know how some men talk, and that's how I saw it, yes.
And then she was also one of the biggest spreaders of the birther conspiracies against former President Obama. She was used by Donald Trump frequently to go and attack Obama. Here, play this clip.
But what is this with the birth certificate obsession? Did he ask to see yours when you met him?
I needed to put mine anyway, because if you want to become an American citizen, you need to put the birth certificate.
Right.
I have a birth certificate from Slovenia. And do you want to see President Obama birth certificate or not?
I've seen it.
It's not the birth certificate.
Well, it's a certificate of live birth,
Right,
which they get. But Melania, if he insists on what he's saying, then no one in Hawaii can ever run for president because they all get the same live birth certificate.
Well, but they need to
Bette
have...
Midler is finished, for example.
They need to have, and in one way, it will be very easy if President Obama just show it. And because it's not only Donald who wants to see it. It's American people who voted for him and who didn't vote for him. They want to see that.
But it's on display in Chicago. We've seen it on the internet. We've seen it. It's not the same as yours, but it's a certificate of live birth.
Well, we feel it's different than, birth certificate.
All right. Well, I think you should give it up at this point.
Well, it's not him that it's bringing up. It's the media all the time.
There's another thread in this orbit that always returns to the club. Virginia Giuffre has said she worked at Mar-a-Lago as a teenager when Ghislaine Maxwell approached her and pulled her into Epstein's world. That account sits inside court filings and interviews. It does not accuse Melania of anything. It does not make her responsible for a predator's choices. It does make Mar-a-Lago a recurring stage where a network of powerful people crossed paths and where a teenager's life took a catastrophic turn.
Now, I had the opportunity to speak with Melania's former top advisor and former best friend, Stephanie Winston Wolkoff. And here's what she told me went down when Melania saw Stormy Daniels in Vogue. Here, play this clip. Around the time when you released the best-selling book, Melania and Me, there was that audio recording where Melania was livid that Stormy was going to be on the cover of Vogue or in Vogue. And she was calling her like a porn star hooker. And she was saying that to you. They're putting the porn star in the front, and this is so embarrassing. So she's always been humiliated by the Stormy ordeal. The fact that all of this testimony came out during the trial about what Donald was saying about her to Stormy, and perhaps even just the way that Stormy presented at trial, so professional, was a real kind of superstar and stood up there for herself. Do you think that added to the torment of Melania just knowing her?
I don't think Melania understands torment, as crass as that sounds and as sad as that sounds. I'll never forget, and I shared the audio with you. Melania did. She called me and she goes, Anna Wintour, editor-in-chief of Vogue magazine, put the porn hooker in Vogue. Now, I was like, what? She said she shot the porn hooker. And I didn't know what she was talking about. And you hear my reaction. And in that reaction, Melania's only concern was that Vogue was actually profiling Stephanie Clifford, Stormy Daniels, not anything about the fact that the conversation in everyone's households was that Donald was having an affair with Stormy Daniels at the time.
Moscow sets the frame, Trump performs for the frame. The past he tries to bury climbs out of the frame and sits in the front row. We will keep cutting the truth into clean lines so you can share them without a paragraph of context. If you are watching on YouTube, please subscribe to America Facticity for more breaking news.